my name is Karle Roberts, and I'm the Family Engagement Coordinator here at Compass Charter Schools. I would like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to listen to this recording. I would also like to thank our talented guest presenter, Dr. Kristin Beasley, who's one of our amazing educational facilitators, who has taken the time out of her busy schedule to help with this presentation. Today, we're going to share with you some ideas and resources to help you help your scholars have better time management skills. Before we begin, I'd like to take a quick second to remind you that at Compass Charter Schools, we have 5 core values. They are achievement, respect, teamwork, integrity, and communication. These serve as our guiding principles for our scholars, learning coaches, and staff. Each month this year, we've been taking time to focus on one of our core values, starting with achievement and working our way through to communication, as we know the importance of our core values and we want them to remain in the forefront of our minds. I'm so glad to have you joining us as we continue to dig deeper into the role of the learning coach. Today we have a very talented Dr. Kristin Beasley, who's one of our amazing options and homeschool teachers, who's here to share with us some ideas about how to help your scholar have better time management skills. Dr. Beasley is going to be covering what is time management and the development of time, scheduling specific times for specific tasks, considering larger chunks of time, and using visual schedules or technology for feedback and task completion. And now I will hand it off to Dr. B.
Hi, everybody. So today it's help. My scholar needs more efficient time management skills. So I wanted to start off with one of my favorites, Dr. Seuss. How did it get so late so soon? Time is one of those really abstract concepts that it's hard to get an understanding of. And so we're talking about littles. We take time completely for granted as adults because we've experienced time. We have had watches and just a lot more experience with time. Young children, it takes a while to understand that abstract reality. So let's talk about time first in terms of development. You have birth to 7-year-olds, and it's like having a little kitten. They don't know anything really about time. We refer to time, we say it's time for bed, it's time for dinner, it's time for this, but in reality, they're like a little kitten. See that little kitty's face? They just kind of go, all right, like that's just how we talk about it. By the time kids are in middle childhood, about age 7 to 12, they're getting a better grasp of time and understanding like, okay, we're going to leave in 15 minutes. So they have a better understanding of time, and they've probably practiced time in their curriculum at some level. They may have watches and use clocks in order to tell time and to know when things are going to happen. But we still scaffold kids with time between the ages of 7 and 12, just because we need to give them, you need to be ready in 15 minutes, or we're going to leave and you have to finish playing in 5 minutes, or you need to take a break for 2 minutes. So we're still helping kids with time, and they're getting a better grasp on it. By the time kids become adolescents, and that's a long period of time because adulthood the brain wiring doesn't really solidify until people are about the age of 24. So I spread adolescence out over a dozen years, 12 to 24. And I used an iPhone to illustrate time because today, time, number one, adolescents want to be independent with their time. And we have a lot of tools available through the internet and iPhones and cell phones in order to manage time. So at this point, it's fine for kids to be responsible and expected to manage their time well and be held accountable for it. So that's sort of the development of time. The beginning, we really take full responsibility for time and time management for young children using concrete tools. Middle childhood, we're starting to scaffold and help them with time, but they don't necessarily understand it independently. And by the time we're into adolescence, kids are using it independently and being held responsible for managing their own time. All right, so routines are critical. I can't express this enough, that routines are the best way to teach children and anybody really about time management. They're cues for us to use in terms of what's going to happen next. So this is the phrase, predictability leads to stability. You can use this phrase in reference to pretty much anything, but when we create an environment that's predictable, that leads to stability. And the one thing that helps children more than anything is having a stable, predictable environment. And we do that as adults by placing routines into their world that help direct them to what to do next. So we don't have to constantly be saying, do this, do that, do this, do that. Their brain will then become wired to recognize what's coming up next because it's predictable, and that leads to stability. All right, so back to wiring for attention. When we jump from one thing to another, we're kind of wiring for inattention. In some ways, I would argue we wire sometimes people to have attention deficits. So it's really important to think, what are the wiring messages we're sending to the brain when we teach children about time, when we teach them about what's going to come next. So it's really important, because kids don't have this concept of abstract time, that we use visual cues. We can use concrete tools like timers, stopwatches, for kids to start to recognize what this means in terms of it's a space that we start and finish something. One of the things that I think is really, really important and such a nice benefit to homeschooling is that we can allow children to spend much longer periods of time digging deep into an assignment, and they can work longer on something. And that's important. We don't want to interrupt kids' learning, because again, then we're wiring people to have a shorter attention span. So, but it's also important to have an end time to things, because we want to have concrete concepts around a subject area. So letting kids potentially thinking about their work at school and their assignments, we can entertain setting that up in ways where they have 2 hours of time working on math or science or a project that integrates lots of different concepts. And if we think back to Arctic, achievement, respect, teamwork, integrity, and communication, those are things that we're partners with our kids. We're partners with our scholars. As learning coaches, we help them to plan their curriculum, and then we help them to complete it. And we scaffold that learning as well as we scaffold that time. So if we set into place a predictable routine for getting work done, that's a great, great way to teach kids about time management. And then we use our communication skills with our scholars and our children to talk about, okay, we're going to spend an hour doing this, and then we're going to spend a half an hour doing that, and then we're going to spend an hour doing this. So we're always feeding the message system with communication and words, so they're logging that into their brain. And that's the neurobiology of time. We're wiring for time management that way, instead of just being completely scattered and everything just happens in reaction and response. All right, moving on. So strategies, some other strategies for time management. We have to start with the concrete. Time is an abstract concept and we can't hold it in our hands. So we start with the abstract. This is a typical kindergarten calendar schedule kind of thing. You arrive, they have clocks that are used and show the time of somebody arriving. And then we move more towards the abstract. Why do we need to be aware of time? Well, time is a respect issue. If you're late to something all the time, well, that sends a message that, you know, maybe you don't respect somebody else's time. And those are important concepts to talk about with young children as well. So starting with the concrete and moving towards the abstract. We use things like clocks and we use things like watches, and you know, we can switch from digital to analog. It doesn't really matter, but we want to make it concrete, and then it becomes just sort of part of the way we operate as humans. All right, moving on. Some ideas to think about when we're talking about time are differences in perception of time. Different cultures perceive time differently. There are cultures that don't use watches. They use the sun rising and the sun setting as their guide for time. And so it's really important to recognize that not everybody perceives time exactly the same way. Age, as we've talked about already, age and development are other parts that contribute to understanding how to manage time. And we start off by helping children more with time, and then allow people to be more independent with their time. Like I said, culture is impacts the perception of time, as well as gender. So I challenge you to watch children, the differences in terms of how boys and girls manage their time differently, and help them to look at those differences as well and share their strategies with each other, because both genders have ways of managing time that are different, but they can also cross-reference with each other. So I hope this is helpful in helping your scholar learn some time management and helping you to put time management into perspective. And I look forward to talking to you down the road. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Beasley. I appreciate your time and all the work that you put into this presentation. If learning coaches, if you have any questions about this presentation, or if you have an idea of a topic that you would like to see presented, please give me a call. My number is 805-807-8215, or you can email me at kroberts@compasscharters.org, and I would be more than happy to help you and to help put together a presentation that would address the topic that you would like to see. There will also be a link in the video description that you can click on and submit your topic suggestion that way. Compass Charter Schools is so thankful to have you as a part of our Compass family. Thank you again for taking the time today to watch this recording. Be sure to look through our other topics in our YouTube channel, as there are many resources available to our learning coaches, and we are continuing to add more each month. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.